You know what's funny? I love jokes. I know you like jokes too. And what I found really hilarious is people like me, people like yourself, and as well as we've been seeing with the conservative opposition, when they call out the BS that's happening in the Liberal Party, when they call it the BS that of like, hey, it looks like your caucus is falling apart, Carney. You want to make sure you try to unify your group over there, and they got all so pretentious and so worried about this pipeline MOU vote, and they try to project onto the conservatives about how they're trying to divide Canada, and it's like, no, we're just pointing out how divided you guys are. You guys loved it when the Globe and Mail, you guys loved when the CBC was talking about the floor crosser for weeks on end. Oh, now we're starting to poke out your flaws that are actually real and happening, and you don't like it too much. And we're seeing more of it happen. And they keep telling us, you guys are always trying to find something over here. You guys think something, you think we're divided. We're not. We're more unified than ever before. And yet they keep doing things that make you think, are you? Sounds like you're trying to control. At this point, it sounds like damage control. And we're going to be talking about how Mark Carney is hiding his MPs from the media. We're going to be talking about how Liberal MPs are hiding from the opposition in committee. And this and so much more, we're going to be covering all of it. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. Getting value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us to grow. It helps us get to new audiences and helps people see that there is something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. And now let's get on our first story, shall we? So, for the second day in a row, Kate McKenna, parliamentary reporter for CBC News, says this. For the second day in a row, the Prime Minister stopped one of his MPs from scrumming, meaning talking to the media. This time, it was Mark Miller, who was answering questions about the head of a museum accused of wrongdoing. Again, second day in a row he's been doing this. Catch this. What's he doing here? You can come talk to
Mark, they're not trying to help you.
You come here instead.
They're not helping you.
Second day in a row, he's single-handedly gone in and grabbed one of his MPs from scrumming with the press. Does that look like a leader who's secure in his leadership? Does that look like a party who's secure in their governing power? No, it looks like a party who is desperately trying to control the narrative that comes out of their party. And no, typically the argument back is the fact that, oh, they're all laughing, they're all joking, it's just all in good fun, they're just having fun with the press. No. They're masking what they're trying to do with humor, with laughter, so that it's not taken so seriously. However, that is a very deliberate attempt to make sure Mark Miller stops talking to the press immediately. We don't know what they're worried about him saying. All I know is this is odd behavior for the second day in a row as well. And yet the Liberals and their media friends will continue to push that, no, everything's all good in the party. Nothing to worry about here. This is complete and utter unity. We are kumbaya over here, baby. No problems. It's all good. Yet this tells me something different because we're seeing it as we're going into this Christmas break. The party is falling apart at the seams. It started with the pipeline MOU, and even the media trying their best to hide what happened with that pipeline MOU vote. You know, the Conservatives putting the Liberals to the test of what their actual words were on the pipeline MOU, knowing there was a lot of division in the party. That's one. You have Justice Committee and the Liberals having to cancel committee meetings because things were getting so crazy in the Liberal caucus of how they were going to handle Bill C-9. So they had to cancel and regroup, they said. That has been happening. And as well as we're seeing other committee meetings where we're seeing the Conservatives putting pressure on Mark Carney and the Liberals saying, hey, you're a little too cozy with Brookfield, a little too cozy with their execs. What is happening? And they're starting to put pressure on that in that area as well. And it's all starting to disintegrate because none of this ever was built on good faith. How did they get elected? Oh, instilling fear into the population, saying, please vote for us. Trump's scary. Well, of course they don't have a good government if that's how they won, because they didn't win on principle, integrity. They vote on terrifying the heck out of you. That's how they won. Because we see it here with Bill C-9. We see this a day or so ago. Garnett, Genus, and MP Andrew Lawton were discussing what had just happened after a committee meeting. And they're live streaming it, having a good old time, and this is what they're doing. And then a Liberal MP decides to interrupt them. And this was kind of a funny interaction.
We'll go back to Tamara.
Oh, we even have a Liberal obstructionist with us right now.
Who's this guy? What do you do, sir? John Paul Danko, MP for Hamilton West.
Okay, we got a Liberal MP here. We got a live stream.
Explain
Say-
why you
say your
don't think
piece.
you should have the right to
I'm
preach
just-
Go ahead,
without
say
fear
your
of
piece.
prosecution.
It's protected by the charter. You know that.
Then why
But
did you pass the
actually
amendment?
believe
Why
your
did you
own
pass the
nonsense.
amendment?
Okay, all right. So we got a Liberal MP. No, join us. Stick around. You stepped into the live stream stage. So you're up. Okay. All right.
He's
so we
running away.
We
He's
got,
learning from his Prime Minister.
we got a Liberal MP who comes into the middle of our live stream, tries to interrupt it, and then walks away in the middle of the conversation.
Yeah.
Take note of that, folks. He wants to interrupt the live stream, but then when we say, come on board, join the debate, we want to have you part of the conversation, he walks away.
So this is just a funny interaction, but it is hilarious, right? It's like, come on, guys. We know nothing's going to happen with religious rights. It's protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And then rightfully so, Andrew Lawton asked, then why did you pass the amendment giving a carve-out, stripping the religious exemption out of Bill C-9 if it's so protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Why is it even in there? Why'd you vote on it? Why'd you vote to pass it? I don't see you. Peace. Didn't see him any longer. Then, of course, he was mocked in the process. And I think that's the problem that we're seeing, is we've seen this Liberal Party over the past 10 years completely turn our Charter of Rights and Freedoms into an absolute joke, Swiss cheese, only to be adhered to when it's convenient. When it gets in the way of them having absolute power over the people, Charter of Rights and Freedoms, that's a suggestion. That's a suggestion. And so, again, the Conservatives showed up to the Bill C-9 committee, Justice Committee today, and they all were proven a point today. You had Mr. Larry Brock show up with a Bible in front of him during committee, Roman Baber beside him with a Torah, and then beside him, Andrew Lawton had a Bible in front of him just to prove a point that we're going to keep fighting, and this is what Larry Brock had to say.
Single day. I just want to put on the record
I understand
that the Conservatives are prepared to sit every single day, if necessary, to defend my holy Bible and other holy books that are around this table. I will never stop that pursuit.
Again, he wanted to put on the record, make a point that we will be here and we'll keep fighting because this is egregious. And this, admittedly, I've been kind of surprised by the reaction of people in a good way, where I thought, obviously you're going to have the faith community be really up in arms over this, rightfully so. But the other side of this I've been very surprised by was my atheist friends, people who couldn't care less about faith and religion, texting me, calling me, messaging me, saying, this is crazy. Like, I'm sorry, Josh. Like, this is like, I don't care about this stuff, but man, this sets a dangerous precedent and we're behind you. It's not just the faith community, man. A lot of people outside the faith community are recognizing how crazy this is. And I admit, I give kudos to them for the sake of something that you don't totally identify with, something that you don't really care for. And if let's be honest, in my history with these friends, they've mocked me for my faith, coming out saying, whoa, this is nuts. And I think that is starting to show more and more as this progresses. And he had, Sean Fraser hopping on CBC, trying to soften it, trying to massage it. And he said this.
Or you might have to give the bloc this amendment, or you might have to pull the bill, because the Conservatives are not against this, and this seems to be where the compromise exists right now for you to get the parliamentary majority you need.
Certainly, but let's just actually talk about the substance of what's being proposed, because there's a lot of misinformation that is being shared around there, suggesting this is the criminalization of faith, which I don't think any parliamentarian would stand for.
But there will be concerns. Like, there are certain faiths, like I was raised Catholic, right? People, adherence to that, strict adherents, think homosexuality is a sin, gay marriage shouldn't be allowed, same-sex adoption shouldn't be allowed, and might have concerns that if preaching that or advocating that they could be targeted for a crime. The religious exemption would protect them from that, but you argue the threshold's much higher than something that way.
Certainly, the threshold is much higher to willfully promote hate against an identifiable group of people. There's a difference between saying you have a point of view or reading scripture about same-sex marriage and actually promoting hate, vilifying, or inciting violence against a particular group. Moreover, the protections that this individual provision could have potentially afforded a person would likely be protected by the Charter or the existing public interest exemption. From my point of of view, we should recognize that religions in this country promote messages of love, of peace, of inclusion. And I think it's a perversion of what the world's major religions stand for, to have people suggest that somehow reading scripture or holy text from a religion of your choice would somehow constitute willfully promoting hate. I grew up in a Catholic household too, read scripture on Sundays. This is not what religion is about, and I have faith that we're going to be able to move forward with the protections, including the ones that were designed specifically to protect religious communities in this.
I hear you, Sean Fraser, and I understand this is a massage job to try and make sure you try to get this thing passed without too much obstruction, too much resistance from the people. But maybe talk to your colleague, Mark Miller, who outright said there are scriptures that are just hateful, that probably should be considered if they should be allowed or not. He said that, yet you said the opposite here. Who are we to believe? Well, considering you're trying to strip religious exemptions out of Bill C-9 and you got that amendment passed, yeah, don't trust you. Don't trust you for 2 seconds. Well, we had a lawyer on our show yesterday, the head of the JCCF. I asked him directly, straight to his face, if in this current form, at some point, if this gets enacted, at some point in time, can the government go after people who simply just read a passage that the government deems as hateful? Could that happen at some point if this bill gets enacted? Could that happen? He says, well, it won't happen right away. It'll happen incrementally, but yes, it can happen. And so you have Sean Fraser hopping on here, literally bold-faced lying to you, saying, no, we're never going to do that. No, of course you're going to do that. Of course that's how it's going to go. You're not giving any protections to people. There's no oversight. You're allowing random pieces of our justice system just to go after people if they deem fit that this was hateful. This is how this goes, folks. You think we want to believe you? Think we're going to believe you? Not a chance. But as I said, Mark Carney and his Liberal Party are disintegrating by the day. And that's why you're seeing Carney trying to pull people out of scrums, trying to make sure they talk to the media as least amount as possible. Because we saw here, Carney caught meeting Brookfield execs despite ethics warnings. Prime Minister Mark Carney's financial fate is directly tied to the success of Brookfield Asset Management, according to testimony from Ethics Commissioner Conrad von Finkenstein. And yes, it's coming from Juno News. We did learn this from committee, and it was clarified in committee. It says, despite this glaring conflict of interest, Carney continues to meet with his former co-workers, allegedly unbeknownst to von Finkenstein and against his advice. It is clear Mr. Carney's future compensation is tied to the success of Brookfield. Commissioner Conrad von Finkenstein told the Commons Ethics Committee on Monday. But in order to avoid making decisions which can be seen to benefit Brookfield and therefore indirectly himself, first of all, he has to put everything in a blind trust. But we all know blind trusts don't actually exist. It's all fugazi. While Carney is well aware that he is not to be meeting with members of Brookfield's organization, he's continuing to do so and without the knowledge of the ethics commissioner. We know that Mr. Carney was lobbied by North River Midstream, said Conservative MP Michael Cooper on May 6. A week later, he met with Sam Pollock, the CEO of Brookfield Infrastructure in Washington, D.C. Brookfield Infrastructure is also subject to the ethics screen, yet it has recently come to light that in October, Mr. Carney met with the Chief Operating Officer of Brookfield, Justin Bieber. Is it too late to say sorry? In the Prime Minister's office. News of Carney's continued correspondence has recently come to light, despite the fact that he still holds $9.8 million in stock options with the company. So here we have a pattern of Mr. Carney meeting with top Brookfield executives who had direct access to the Prime Minister, as well as Brookfield-owned companies, said Cooper. Is this what you envisioned when you set up the ethics screen? And the commissioner responded by telling Cooper that he wished he wouldn't focus on the ethics screen, while acknowledging that there was a conflict of interest that the Prime Minister has to recuse himself of. I just wish you would stop focusing on the ethics screen. Why? You tell me why. Oh, because it just is too clear that how ridiculous this is. That's why this ethics committee is pushing hard to force Carney to sell all his Brookfield stocks or anything that is tied to Brookfield. Because it's clear he's only in power to get rich. That's it. And a lot of the policy he's already been trying to push is directly benefiting him, benefiting Brookfield, benefiting his rich buddies. And of course, you have the tribal liberal members saying, oh no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, okay. It's all good, they say. People are dumb, man. People are so tired. And it's been wild to watch and interesting to see the Conservative Party pushing hard in all these committees. And they're making the Liberal Party very uncomfortable that the Prime Minister is ripping people out of scrums to please don't talk to the press. I beg you. I beg you, because more crap like this is taking place. Extortion suspects have all claimed refugee status, Canada's border agency says. Do you know what that means? They've targeted a handful of people who've been extorting and committing crimes in our country at a crazy degrees, at a crazy level, and they were set to be deported, but then they all claimed refugee status, protecting them from being deported. Canada's plan to expel those behind BC's extortion epidemic has hit a roadblock after every single suspect sent for deportation hearing claimed refugee status. The four nationals were identified by BC's extortion task force, but once the Canada Border Services Agency began investigating them all claimed to be refugees. And he had Michelle Rempel-Garner who commented on this and said, last week, I moved an amendment to Bill C-12 that would have stopped non-citizens convicted of serious crimes from making bogus asylum claims, and the Liberals voted against it. As I said, the charade is falling apart. People are seeing more of this by the day, and like, okay. Liberals love to point the finger across the aisle and say, conservatives are obstructing. Conservatives are obstructing. And the conservatives are like, well, heck yeah, because you guys keep trying to bring things into law that is actively harming our community and harming Canadian citizens. So of course we're going to be obstructing that. We'd love to work with you to pass good legislation. But have you heard that that's been the theme? We saw it from Mark Gerritsen. We saw it from Lamoureux. We see it from Mark Carney. We see it from Jolie. We're seeing it from Fraser. We're seeing it from all of them. The conservatives just won't work with us. Get on board, they say. Lena Diab, get on board. Why won't you let us pass our draconian measures? We want to own everybody. Don't you understand that? We want to own them all. Why won't you let us? They're so used to a soft conservative party that they're not getting anymore. And they're so upset and bewildered. And Reg said it perfectly on our show the other night. The other reason why they're so irritated by this is because they've passed nothing. Absolutely nothing in this session so far. They've not been able to go back to the Canadian people, their constituents, with anything that they've actually done. So people are going to be asking questions. Why? Why? That's why it's getting wild as you go into Christmas break. They're trying to get C9 passed so badly. It won't happen. They're fighting tooth and nail to make sure it doesn't. At least before Christmas, it's not. It's Thursday. Tomorrow we'll see what happens. It's going to be wild. And before we hit a 6-week Christmas break and we don't see any of these fools until January 26th. Fascinating. Well, I'll leave it there. But enjoy your day. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.